A story of dedication and adapting to his surroundings, leaning on his bond with two other students who would also go on to become physicians. They did it together, epitomizing the message I talk about all the time. Collaboration, not competition, is key to your success. Everyone, Dr. Sampson Davis is in the house. Take it away, good sir.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I certainly can recall the days of medical school and sort of leading up to medical school and the thought of what that may look like, dental school, medical school, graduate school in general, and just the course of it all and how fun it was, but in moments how daunting it appeared. My story, I think if I can share with you, is one from sort of humble beginnings. I grew up in inner city community of Newark, New Jersey. Like many inner cities across the country, there were so many obstacles and challenges and just disappointments that I faced in my young life. And so becoming a physician was something that was a bit of an anomaly from where I came from. It was something that didn't seem obtainable from where I came from. So growing up with that sort of backdrop, I always wanted more. What kid doesn't want more? What youth doesn't want more? Like what youth doesn't dream big in a sense of achievement and accomplishment and desires and goals? And so I still had those same ambitions, but my reality was one of poverty, was one of struggle, was one of hardships. Single parent home, 5 siblings in a 2-bedroom home. You do the math. I didn't have my own room, and I certainly didn't have my own bed. And that was okay. That was pretty all right, considering that we had heat in the summer in our home and we had AC in the winter because we couldn't afford to keep the house cool during the summer days or to supply heat during the winter days. So we had to be creative in ways of sort of warming the house during those cold, frigid days and cooling the house during those hot, sweltering days. But at the same time, that was the backdrop. And it was a colorful, dynamic backdrop because it was creativity. It wasn't the easy reach for video games, or back then we didn't have technology the way that we have today. So we were creative in the games that we played and the things that we did during the summer days to keep us occupied when we weren't in school. And that was fine. And with school itself, academics, which is vital, which is hugely important, took a back seat in my community simply because it was a situation where survivability trumped education. In order to survive, in order to get to where you wanted to go in life, that was the focus. Education took a back seat to that. So trying to figure out how to put meals on the table, trying to understand how to pay your rent that month. And then the crime and the despair and the destruction and the hopelessness was so rooted in my neighborhood that it was tough to see beyond the immediate now. But something within me and something within my 2 friends that I made this pact with to become doctors was this desire to be something more in life, was this desire to grow. But how are we going to do that? Because you cannot aim for what you can't see. You cannot imagine the impossible if you're surrounded by those things that doesn't seem feasible to get to where you want to go. So we didn't have doctors and dentists and architects and astronauts and literary agents and businessmen, Wall Street, individuals walk in our community. We just saw a plethora of negative stereotypes and images. And so within me was this desire. My mother was a huge champion. She used to always say, go to school, go to school, go to school. And even when I was in school, 2nd, 3rd grade, there was something about the excitement of a teacher saying, what's 2 times 2? Ooh, pick me, pick me. Ooh, that's 4, pick me. And it was something about the about the excitement of being braggadocious or just being really into your educational development. But as you start to get older in my community, teenage stages, especially 12, 13, 14, you found yourself sort of hanging around that wrong crowd and doing the wrong things. And education wasn't necessarily the cool thing. And school is cool because it rhymes. If school and cool didn't rhyme, then it wouldn't be cool. But school rhymes with cool. So education is and still is the platform that most of us have to pursue, all of us have to pursue in order to get to where we want to go in life, in order to develop to where we want to be in life. And so as I reached those teenage critical years, I started to find myself not focused on my books as much. Again, survivability started to outweigh education. And it was just about sort of figuring out how to get by day in and day out. And for me, not having dad in the home, having 5 other siblings, I had to really figure out a way to sort of contribute to the household. So my grades started to slip. What was once something that I was excited about, A's and B's and answering, 2 times 2 and the pi equals 3.14, those type of things started to become less attractive, and just surviving was the sort of blueprint. And I found myself not doing well in school, hanging out with that wrong crowd, making poor decisions, making bad investments, and found myself in trouble with the law, not once, but twice. And it was during that second time when I was 17 and a half, and I say half, 17 and a half, as we get older, we lose those halves. Young people, you'll see. And as we get into our 40s, we lose that second number. We're just in our 40s. Don't ask me the other question. But with that said, at 17 and a half, I found myself in trouble once again, and I was given a second opportunity. And so when I told myself during this period of time when I wasn't doing so well in life, that if I had another opportunity, that I promised that I would try to figure this out, that I will put real effort. And not that I didn't before, but I would have to look beyond my circumstance. Again, you cannot aim for what you can't see. If you don't have positive, concrete, real life texture items to wrap your arms around, then all of it is really then is an amorphous mass. You're just grabbing at straws. You're just reaching into the darkness, into the space, trying to grab something if there's no texture to it. So trying to become a doctor or a dentist or any sort of professional for that matter is tough to do so if you're not surrounded by those real life concrete images. And so with that in mind, when I was 17 and a half, I was going into my senior year of high school, the second opportunity. And I had these 2 friends who were cosmic and who were creative, who were just like me, from the same neighborhood, from the same walks of life. We had a sense of struggle. We had a sense of hardship. We had a sense of grit. But we all wanted to make something of our lives. And so one day during our second period class in high school, our senior year, we had a substitute teacher. And the 3 of us, myself, Dr. Ramik Hunt, and Dr. George Jenkins, at that time have been in classes. I had known these guys since 9th grade. So 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. Here we are, seniors. Second period class. So we already knew second period class. We were some mischief in us still. Substitute teacher. We looked at each other. We already knew this was going to be Operation Cut a Class. So I raised my hand. I had to go to the restroom. Dr. George Jenkins, he raised his hand. He had to go to the principal office to hand off an assignment. And Dr. Ramik Hunt raised his hand. He had to go use the payphone. Back then we had payphones, which is nothing like this here today. Payphones are these huge archaic machines that go in the back of the wall somewhere in a concrete building. You put dimes or quarters in to make a phone call. You don't see too many payphones, but that's how we communicated back then. So he had to go call his mother to pick him up at the school. So the substitute teacher already knew that the 3 of us would be better served outside of her classroom than inside of her classroom. So she let us go, and the 3 of us were standing in the hallways figuring out, okay, now we're in the hallways. Operation Cut a Class is in full effect. Now what do? We can't just sit in the hallways. And so we decided, okay, well, let's go to the gym. And we could go to the gym. There had to be some sort of class in the gym already, playing basketball, doing some sort of exercise routine. And if we could get to the gym, we would go in through the side entrance and blend in with the class that was there. And the gym teacher wouldn't notice us because there's so many kids bouncing around and sort of taking part in activities that she would not notice us. But in order for us to get to the gym, we had to go from one side of the building to the other side of the building in high school. And right in between was the security guard. And our security guard, Mr. Brown, was something special. He was near retirement. So he would take his desk and his chair and sort of turn his back to you so you can sort of slide by Mr. Brown in order to get to the other side of the hallway, or the side of the building, rather, through the hallway, and to get into the gym side of the building. So we started walking down the hallway, this long corridor, and as we were approaching Mr. Brown's desk, we noticed that today of all days, Mr. Brown was not there. And this was very awkward because, again, he was like clockwork. He was as rooted in that building as all the materials that had been there since the inception of the building of that building. And so as we were nearing his desk, we noticed he wasn't there, and we didn't think anything of it. We were still going to make our way to the gym. Operation Cut a Class was still in full effect. But as we started to get closer and closer towards the gym area, we started to hear footsteps behind us. And so, being a curious 17-and-a-half-year-old minds, we looked over our shoulders. And sure enough, there was another security guard, a substitute security guard, there that day. So he locked eyes with us. We locked eyes with him. He told us to, you three, stop. We started to walk faster. Before you know, it's a full-out sprint. We're young, we're 17. He's old, he's 40. He's never going to catch us. And so our whole goal was to make it to the end of the hallway. On the other side of the building, we want to turn that corner, go through the side entrance of the gym, and blend in with the class. But before we could do that, somebody stepped out from in front of us on the side of the gym, on the other side that we were going to head towards. Somebody stepped out from there. And now we have security behind us, and we have this other person in front of us who happened to be the principal of the school. Now, this is second period class. At that time, I wanted to say, time out. Why are you in the hallways, Miss Principal? You should be on the phone with some parent teacher having a discussion somewhere while you're roaming the hallways. But again, that wasn't my place. And so now looking at the situation of now the principal in front of us and the security guard behind us, we were sandwiched and we were caught. And today of all days, just so happened there was another door that was right there close to us that happened to be ajar that day. And this door was not an option ever because it was always locked. But today this door was ajar. And we dove into this door that led into the library. And so happened in the library this particular day, there was a career presentation being presented by one of the local colleges here, Seton Hall University, about careers in health and science. So the three of us scrambled. We found a seat to take part in this sort of career seminar. I didn't really have an interest at first. The principal and the security guard, substitute security guard, looked at me and they said, maybe some osmosis or diffusion reaction would take place, and these young men will sort of absorb the knowledge that they need there. And they let us be. We quickly found seats at different tables. I put my head, I went down to sleep because at that time, at this particular moment, I had started working for McDonald's, and I was promoted to crew chief, and I was quickly promoted to assistant manager. So again, my vision was, I could probably work at McDonald's, and there's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, but your goals and your aspirations should never be limited. And so, but again, you can't aim for what you can't see. So you can see where the conundrum is here. Like, how are you going to expect a young mind to aim for these glorious aspects of real life and real world, but you're giving them no nourishment, nothing that's developmental to help them to reach those heights. So becoming somebody that worked at McDonald's was really something that was very tangible, possible, and settling from where I came from. And again, there's nothing wrong with that type of career. But becoming a doctor was something I never thought of in that moment. And so I put my head down, I went to sleep, and this is senior year of high school. And Ramik, he listened in because he wanted to be a teacher. So Dr. Hunt listened in because teachers and doctors, they do the same thing. They help people to get better. So he listened in. And Dr. Jenkins, George, he's the dentist of the group. He listened in because he wanted to be a dentist. Now, how did George get this vision? How did Dr. Jenkins get this vision of becoming a dentist? And it's simple. Again, it is about the surroundings. When he was 12 years old, he had braces on his teeth. And at the time, the dental resident as he would adjust George's braces, as he would tighten them, loosen them, clean his teeth. He just took a few minutes of his time, teaching them the different teeth in the mouth, the molars, the premolars, the canines, the enamel, the dentine, the different components of the tooth, 32 teeth. As George would say, 32 teeth, and you tell me right now, if it's broke, I fix it. If I can't fix it, I pull it. And the dentist is like, yeah. He said, man, I think I could become a dentist. I think I can do this. And now here was this dream being planted at 12 and 13 years old. And here we are at 17 and a half. And now the opportunity is presenting itself. So you have the dream. You have the opportunity. The seminar ended, and I see my two friends, they're best of friends, they're jumping up and down, they're excited. Now, these are your friends. You don't know why they're jumping up and down, but you see your friends jumping up and down, and you start jumping up and down. So I'm jumping with them, and they're like, man, we're about to become doctors and dentists. I was like, all right, well, when did this happen? Like last night, I know we were cutting class. When did it start becoming a doctor and dentist? I mean, like, no, because Seton Hall University has this program, pre-medical, pre-dental program. We can do it together. We could do this as a group. And so I'm jumping with them, and they're my friends. Those are my boys. So I'm jumping up and down. So I said, okay, doctor. So I'm still jumping, but not as high. And so I said, well, how long is that going to take to become a doctor and a dentist? Is that going to take a year or two? And they said, no, it's going to take 8 years. So I stopped jumping. And so, like, you guys want to go to school on purpose? On purpose for 8 more years? Like, man, whew, I'm glad I went to sleep. And they said, no, it'd be great. It would be great because 1, we can have fun, but 2, we can do it together. We could do it as a team. And keep in mind, like, this was something that was organic. It was something that was cosmic. It was not anything that we sort of sat down and we planned and orchestrated or signed a contract or some sort of agreement. We just said to ourselves that we want to change our lives. We want to achieve something in life, and we want to not be a statistic from where we came from. We want to aim for something different beyond our sights and our imaginations. And so we applied to Seton Hall University. I'll never forget, I went on college campus. My first time ever was when I went for my interview, being on a college campus. And I looked around, and I was like, wow, they got grass that is really green, and people are so nice. And then as I was interviewing, they started to tell me about cable television. They started to tell me I would have AC in the summer, and I would have heat in the winter, and I have a meal plan, and I would have a phone, my own phone that works. I was like, man, they say, look to your left, look to your right. Somebody's not going to be here next semester. Like, don't look at me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. And so, lo and behold, all 3 of us interviewed at Seton Hall University. All 3 of us were accepted. It was part of a special program called Pre-Medical, Pre-Dental Plus program. They only took 10 students from the whole state. And they usually take 1 student from each district or each city or each county. And the fact that they accepted 3 students from 1 city, from 1 county, from the same school was the first time that had ever happened. And at the time, there was a recruiter, a counselor named Carla Dixon, who received the moniker of Earth Angel from us, simply because she saw something in us that we didn't see in ourselves. She saw the ability, and she saw the talent, and she saw the educational acumen in us. But she knew that we were at times misguided, that we weren't exposed, that we didn't have the opportunities. And so she stepped in to fill that void. She became a mentor of ours. And so once I got into college and was accepted to Seton Hall, again, all the luxuries that I'd never experienced in life was there. And then I remember it was a class called Survivor's Course and Survivor Skills. And it's simple things that you have to do in order to make sure you stay the course that you're on. Sit in front of the class, make sure to rewrite your notes right after the class, or try to rehash or go over the things that you learned during that organic chemistry class, or that anatomy class, or that genetics class, or that physics class, or that calculus class. Try to go over those small items right after the class so it's fresh in your mind. Repetition breeds the fact of knowledge of what you know. And so that repetitious behavior of what you're doing, that repetitiveness, is going to allow you to hone in the lesson for that class for that day. So sit in front of the class, rewrite your notes, get to know your professor. One of the professors that I got to know was Dr. Linda Shee. And when I went to go meet Dr. Shee, she was my genetics professor in my freshman year. And they told me to go to office hours to get to know your professor. Now I would go to office hours and I would sit there because it was a 10, 15-minute slot once a week. And Dr. Shee said to me, okay, why are you here? Like, I don't know. And she's like, what do you mean? No, you're here, it's office hours. I would say, well, Dr. Shee, they told me to come here to office hours to get to know you. She said, okay, do you have any questions? Like, no. And she said, okay, is there anything I can help you with? I'm like, no, nothing I could think of. And then I looked at my watch, like, okay, I'll see you next week. And that became a friendship just from that alone. That sort of effort of getting to know Dr. Linda Shee became a friendship I'm going to tell you about that just to this day still has magical powers. So get to know your professor, rewrite your notes, sit in front of the class, ask for help. If you're not doing so well in class, ask for guidance, ask for help. You are the quarterback of your destiny. Understand that you are the quarterback, which means that if you watch football or not even a quarterback, let's broaden it. You are the leader of where you want to go. So you have to sit back and design how many credits you got to take each semester, which professor is best to take when. Maybe you have to take some summer courses. The goal is to be done and to get everything in the best position to finish in 4 years, 5 years, however long it may take you. There's no time stamp, but to get the maximum output for your efforts. So you want to make sure that you organize in your mind. If it's 16 credits a semester, you know you can't do physics, you know you can't do genetics, you know you can't do organic the same semester. That is a recipe for disaster. So you want to make sure that you have your core classes, and you want to make sure that you have your non-core classes so that it's a nice blend and that the schedule of your coursework is digestible. Now, as a pre-med major, and today is National Pre-Med Day, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me some of your time to hear me here. I really appreciate it. And I really know that all that you guys are doing, all that you're focused on is possible. You can make this happen. Trust me, if I can do it, certainly you can do it as well. And so you want to plan your course of action. You want to make sure you have your schedule planned out. So to keep in mind, and this is not to scare anyone away, when we started off as science majors, as biology majors at Seton Hall University, it was 130 biology majors. We took a few exams, a few tests, and it's a humbling major because you'll study hard, study. And then you'll go get your results and you'll get a 50 on the test, or you get a 40 on the test. And back then things were graded on a curve, which I'm sure they are now. But these grades that some of my friends received sent a message that this major was not for me, that I could not do this, that I need to switch majors. So a lot of my friends, they changed their majors because they didn't do as well as they thought they should have done on the test. In life, there's going to be moments where you feel like you did not do as well as you thought you should have done. And those are not moments to quit. Those are moments for you to double down, to dig deeper. Because the truth of the matter, right on the next side of quitting, the next day of quitting is success. Right on the next day of quitting, the next day, here's quitting, the next day is victory. The next day is accomplishment. The next day is achievement. The next day is the win. But the quitting situation is forever. Now, it's okay to adjust. It's okay to say, I might want to do something a little bit differently. But you should never want to quit at anything you're doing. You should say, you know what, I decided not to do this anymore. But quitting is forever. A bad day or a bad moment in class or a bad outcome on a grade is only temporary. It will go away, and you will live to do it another day. But quitting is forever. So I point that out because so many of my friends changed their majors and they wanted to become doctors. So 135 of us applied for a biology major. 40 or 50 went on to receive their biology degrees. And another 12 or 14 went on to receive their PhDs, their MDs, and their dental degrees. And the three of us, who we call ourselves the three doctors, were part of that collective 12 or so that went on to receive their terminal degrees. The years of college went by fast. It was the best time of my life. So rich, so many rich experiences, from traveling to other campuses to friends that are lifetime friends that I still have today that are best friends of mine. The pact that me and George and Ramik made, it was not a pact that we made it simply just out of survivability. We wanted to survive the situation we were in. We wanted to achieve, and we wanted to make something of our life. And so those years at Seton Hall were great. We applied in our junior year. We applied for a program at Rutgers Medical School, which we call Access Med, which if we were accepted into the program, it would allow me and Ramik, since we were doctors, to do half of our first year of medical school during our senior year of college. And then we would do our true first year or the other half of our medical school year, that first year of medical school. So we applied to the program, and I had a pretty decent GPA. And I received a letter that said, "You have been accepted into medical school." I was like, "What? They're not accepting me into medical school?" I was like, "Man," right? And so I was excited. We graduated college. And I remember I told Dr. Shi, the same professor that I had received acceptance into medical school. And so I had moved, and I was about to start my first day of medical school. And Dr. Shi called me, and she said, "Hey, Sam, do you have money for your books tomorrow?" I'm like, "No, Dr. She's, it's just the first day of medical school. We're going to get the syllabus, nothing major. Don't worry about it." And she said, "No, you need your books." I said, "No, Dr. She, I'm okay." She's like, "No, I'm coming right now to give you money to get books tomorrow." And so mind you, it's a monsoon. It's pouring down rain. It's one of the worst rain days that I could recall at that stage. And so Dr. Shi, when I first met her, she was about 5 feet 2 inches. And by the time I graduated college, she was 4 feet 11. And so you could see her in her Honda Civic driving down the road at Rutgers College to drop off money for me to get books. And as she's driving, all I see is the top of her head as she's driving. And so to have someone in your life who thinks the world of you, who supports you, who believe in you, is a priceless gesture. And your responsibility is to pay that forward. Your responsibility is to give back to others. Your responsibility is to make sure that you repay that same act of kindness, and not one that feels like a mandate, but it should just be one of generosity that exists within your soul. And so, the years of medical school, I applied again. It was the same situation. I wanted to quit every day. It was a grueling process. I think for me, it was a huge learning curve. It was a huge educational learning curve. It was a huge social development learning curve. It was a huge economical learning curve. So many people in college, medical school, when I went, had family members who were doctors, who careers in some sort of ology, cardiology, pathology, radiology, neurology, and I didn't have any family members and such. And so my learning curve was so steep. And there were moments where I studied really, really hard, and I would get a 40 on the test or a 30 on the test. And I just, instead of quitting, I say I have to maximize my resources. So I asked for help. I asked for anything. I changed the way I studied. I went from reading materials to, they have this thing called scribe notes, which are people who scribe the class. And I used the scribe notes to sort of outline what I had to study. I would record myself on a recorder and put music behind it, just instrumental, so I can sort of play with the senses of how you obtain information, sight, hearing, visualization, texture, whatever, using my senses to make sure I can recall the information. But I said to myself, I cannot quit, because if I quit, then what? Then what's next? See, quitting is very easy, but the lingering impact of quitting is sustained forever. And so I plunged through the 4 years of medical school, and there were lots of hurdles, lots of obstacles. But you have to keep in mind, if you're accepted into medical school, then they know you can do the work. Otherwise, they wouldn't accept you. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to build your team of resources. Make sure that you have friends and family that you can lean on. If you want to make a pact with some other friends, make sure you can do that as well. The beauty about making a pact is that with our pact, what was unique is like George and Ramik didn't hold me accountable, versus I held myself accountable to Ramik and George. So it was important to me that I showed up for them as much as it was for them to show up for me. And we were pretty much our resources for one another. We helped each other out in moments of distress. We helped each other out in moments of uncertainty. We had fun together. We traveled, different college campuses and different events and activities we experienced as together as best friends and brothers. And so the 4 years of medical school went by, and lo and behold, graduation day. Now, on graduation day, me and Ramik were in the same school at Rutgers. George, who was finishing up his dental program, was in Newark underneath Rutgers, but in a different campus. So we didn't realize on graduation day that the three of us were going to graduate together. And when the ceremony happened, we realized the day before, like, oh wow, we're all graduating together at the same time. We thought it would be different times, different campuses, but it was the same day, same event. So you can imagine all of our families gathered together on graduation day, and just the roar of what that felt like, the emotion of what that felt like to see and hear our families all cheer us on as we walked across the stage so loud. And that one of the family members like, well, one of my friends asked, well, who did you guys hire, a cheering squad? Like it was so loud. And that was the moment of the realization, like this was bigger than any individual. This was something that was about the possibilities in life. This was the true fabric of what the dream of turning your dreams into reality. And I remember the mantra I developed in medical school, when there were moments that I wanted to quit, I used what I call the 3 Ds, because I needed something that was ironclad, that was resistant, that would help me to feel able to root myself up day in and day out and go after my dream. And those 3 Ds, which stood for dedication, determination, and discipline. Dedication, determination, and discipline. If I was dedicated enough to show up every day, I could get through this. If I was determined, meaning if I had the sheer willpower, the true grit, the true desire, I can make this happen. If I was disciplined enough, if it required me to get up at 4 a.m., 3:30, 5 a.m., study for 24 hours, whatever it took, if I had those 3 Ds, dedication, determination, and discipline, I would turn the word impossible into I'm possible. And that was my mantra. That's what I use to get through those dark moments, because there will be dark moments. Those I promise you. But that is what builds character. And so those 3 Ds, here we are, graduation day. Here we are, family roaring. Our local newspaper shows up, the Star Ledger. And the Star Ledger is the New Jersey state paper, just like New York Times is the New York state paper, or national paper actually. But New Jersey Star Ledger, they did a story on us, 3 young men from the hardships in the streets of Newark make a promise to become doctors. And the title of the story was the start of something big. Now, I thought this article would land somewhere in the paper, lost somewhere behind ads and newspaper clippings of sorts. And I didn't realize that morning when I woke up that we were on the front page of the New Jersey Star Ledger, right above the fold. 3 African-American faces above the fold for something positive. And that right there kind of started the snowball effect. From there, we had other interviews, and before you know it, Oprah called one day. Now, Oprah used to be this mega TV host. She had her own daytime show. People love Oprah, still do, but she's big now, but she was way big back then. And so Oprah called and she wanted us to come on her show. And I'll never forget, I was home washing dishes at the time. And and they said, this is Oprah. But it wasn't Oprah, it was her producers, but I like to tell it like it was Oprah. So producers like, Oprah, they want to have you on the show. So I left the dishwater running, because this Oprah, you could leave the faucet on. It's Oprah. Ran out the house, went to the airport and have a ticket. And it said Oprah. They let me through TSA. Went up to the flight attendant at the gate. Said Oprah. They put me right in first class. Went to Chicago. Went to her show where she films. She touched my leg. I fell in love. She did not. And and it was the continuation of just sharing our story with the world, with the country. And from there, returned back, started my residency in emergency medicine at the same hospital that I was born in, which was also amazing. I traveled all over, interviewing different places for different residencies in emergency medicine, and sort of to end up or to land back home at the same hospital that I was born in. It really brought everything full circle. And it was almost in a sense of, here I am now, becoming or have the desire to be that real life image for something that I did not see. So having something now that's real, that other youth can aim for, that other adults for that matter could say, hey, I could become a doctor, I could become a dentist, because I see real live examples of what that looks like. I have real live texture and feel to what that may appear to be. And so now I'm back doing residency, the Oprah show. We had an opportunity to write a book called The Pack, P-A-C-T. And to me, The Pack was my blueprint of what it took to get to where we are. Because throughout the process, throughout those moments of darkness, and throughout those moments of uncertainty and self-doubt, there was no one that I could look at or wrap my arms around that I can sort of emulate or model myself after, who've been through the same things that I've been through, to say that this is possible, that this is possible. And so here was an opportunity to provide that. And so we wrote the book, The Pack, me, Ramik, and George. And the book went on and to become a New York Times bestseller, and have been required reading in so many schools throughout the country. And again, to me, it served as the blueprint of what we've been through. It is so many things, I think, that the book resonates with people or individuals, simply because it touches on those moments of, like, where you feel like you're alone and you're the only one going through this. It just feels so much better to know that someone's been through it before, and that you're not the only person that feels this way or going through this moment of life. And so The Pack became that. From there, we did several other books. We Beat the Street, which was a youth version of The Pack. I wrote a book called Living and Dying in Brick City. And Living and Dying in Brick City was important to me because it really brought out a lot of the issues that we see in medicine to this day. The healthcare disparities, the health inequities, the health inequality. And I think what COVID has done for a lot of us, and now that we're at a place to reintegrate back into normal day life, but COVID has ripped off the Band-Aid and exposed a lot of the things that we still need to work on in our country. A lot of the healthcare disparities and inequities and inequalities and the social determinants of health, and understanding patients' plights and reluctance and distrust. So there's so much work more to be done, and COVID has exposed that. And we all have been impacted by COVID. I personally and professionally, I lost colleagues. I lost my brother from COVID as well. So it's been something that has really has made a statement. But now we're on the other side of victory. We are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here with COVID. And so for Living and Dying in Brick City, that book really became a collection of stories and clinical vignettes and cases that I experienced that really moved me to the point that I felt that to write about it would be cathartic, and would be helpful for so many others. And so I wrote the book Living and Dying in Brick City, and my last book, The Stuff, I wrote with Charlie Jeter, which is Derek Jeter's sister, on the 11 principles we all have within us to overcome and soar and achieve. And that became The Stuff. But one of the most proudest accomplishments that I have is starting the Three Doctors Foundation. And the Three Doctors Foundation, the three of us, me, George, and Ramik, we started our first year of residency. So you got to imagine, we are probably the poorest philanthropists you will ever know. We had student loans, and we were starting a foundation. And that was inspired by those who helped us to get to where we were, the Carla Dixons, who took a chance on three young men from the underbelly of our country to try to help them to become something. The Dr. Linda Shee, who found it in her heart to just face a huge rainstorm to come give me funds to buy books. And that just, like, we had no choice but to give back. And so we started Three Doctors Foundation. We recently celebrated our 20th anniversary with the foundation. We operate on the premise of HELM, which is health, education, and leadership and mentoring. It's important that we are at the helm of our communities and of our progress. So health is important. Education obviously is vital. Leadership is vital. And mentoring is key. Giving back and being give to is very key. So the Three Doctors Foundation is something that exists here in our state of New Jersey, and that we operate daily in order to, and there's been some change. We have to go virtual just because of where we've been with COVID. But as I end, and if we have time for questions, I certainly will entertain. I just want you young people out there who's pursuing, congratulations on today, but know that you're not alone, and know that this is worth it. Quarterback your destiny, quarterback your future. Know that you are possible. Form your mantra, what you believe in. Surround yourself with like-minded people. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. I love being around smart people because then I can absorb something and learn something. Speak up. Speak up for injustices. Be vocal. Conversations about healthcare and how we're developing healthcare and where we're going. You guys are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. So use technology, but also use your voice to speak up about injustice. As Martin Luther King was saying, injustice here is an injustice. Injustice here is an injustice anywhere. So make sure you speak up and have a voice for those who are voiceless, and continue to give back. Continue to serve as an inspiration to others. Use my mantra, the 3Ds, or whatever your mantra you want. I like the 3Ds because it's very simple. When stress is that high, I can't remember anything that's complicated and convoluted. I want to grab onto something very simple and memorable. And know that the word impossible truly is I'm possible. Good luck.
Dr. Davis, that was amazing.
Thank you so much.
I smiled, I held my heart, I laughed.
She touched my leg. I fell in love. She did not.
Oh, yeah. It's been many years and I'm still in love.
We do have a few questions from the audience and we still have a few minutes. So yeah, we'd be thrilled if you can take a few.
Absolutely.
All right. So MD2B says, do you feel that you are able to better relate to your patients considering your humble beginnings? In other words, do the patients tend to trust you more because you were just like them previously?
I do. I think life experiences, and you don't have to come from the same, everyone's story is going to be different, and it might be similar. There might be some levels and moments there that stand out that is similar. But I think life experiences teach you how to be humble, how to be relatable. And what I find out when it comes to physician or provider, now that physician, provider, nurse practitioner, physician assistant, nurse, and patient relationship is that being kind and sort of being who you are, people relate to you more than if you try not to be that. So always be who you are. But if you lead with compassion, kindness, a sense of gratitude, I don't think you can ever go wrong. People appreciate that. My patients who don't take their high blood pressure medication, I just break it down. I don't start talking about systolic and diastolic and the medication that you need to be on amphetamine. And I was like, look, do you want to be around to see your grandkids or not? The choice is yours. You could get with this or you could get with that. And, just really having those moments of just human interaction, I find go a long way. So yeah, my humble beginnings definitely has taught me that. But I also feel like just life experiences allow you to see that we all are human and we all are just trying to do the best we can with what we have. And so having those real life moments with your patients really help them to get on board and help them to be more compliant with what you need them to do to be in the best health possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Sampson Davis. We'll end there, stick to our time. And I appreciate you for coming on, sharing your story. It was fire. Students loved it. We'll get you on the Pre-Med Years podcast, and we'll go deeper and pull at some more heartstrings for students. My big mission here, it's kind of a hidden mission, is and not even hidden, right? We have a whole diversity in medicine track is we need to get more Black men in medicine. We know those numbers are going down and down and down as we see Black women coming up, still not where they need to be. But hopefully together we can get some more people encouraged so that they can follow the 3Ds and get into medical school or dental school or wherever their passion lies.
Absolutely. Count me in. Anything I can do to be a part of the progress, I'm here for you.